Kamal Sibal, let me start with you first. So, one of the things that our viewers will be interested in is in knowing if these Indian troops in the Maldives have been there since 1988-89 and they are largely there for non-combat reasons, they're there for humanitarian purposes, for medical evacuation, etc. Why then is Mr. Moizu hell-bent on removing these troops, or is he then making a political point, using these troops as some kind of a political cannon fodder? What is the real reason for why he seems to have taken this rather brazen tone and line when it comes to India's non-combatant troops who are stationed there in the Maldives?
Zaka, you're asking me to rationalize something which is irrational. Maldives can have relations with China. They've had relations with China before, very strong ones, until the previous government came to power. Their predecessor was openly very pro-Chinese and creating a problem for us. But as a part of their own domestic politics and so-called democracy, that government was ousted and Sodi government came to power, which wanted to strengthen ties with India and declared India as their most important partner and declared India first foreign policy. Now it's been reversed. Moizu has won. So I think partly what is happening is as a result of domestic politics. Second, in order to win the election, Moizu has tapped into that very electorate, which one of his predecessors, I'm forgetting his name.
Abdullah Yameen. Yeah.
Abdullah Yameen capitalized on in terms of his pro-China and anti-Indian policies. So clearly there is a division of public opinion in Maldives. The third factor is that Maldives has become very Islamist. So they are very receptive to Islamist influences. In this case, it is clear that Turkey is exerting a lot of influence because the first country he has visited is Turkey, and we know what the Turkish role today is in terms of taking the leadership of the Islamic world, along with Pakistan and Malaysia. These are the three countries which actually want to take away the leadership from Saudi Arabia, which is modernizing itself. That Islamism is the third factor. And the fourth factor, of course, is that China had suffered a diplomatic defeat with the arrival of the Sodi government. And clearly they have been working behind the scenes very assiduously to recover lost ground. And they have obviously financed this person's campaign. Now, my final point is that, as I said, they've had relations with China before. We have not intervened. We have let the democratic process take its own course. We know that we cannot stop the Chinese from penetrating our neighborhood. But that doesn't mean he has to antagonize India, alienate India, insult the Prime Minister of India, and throw India out. Because at the end of the day, when there's a crisis situation, and India has demonstrated that in the Indian Ocean, we are the first responders. So tomorrow, if there's a crisis, who will come to his aid? China? It's ridiculous. It's totally short-sighted. It's petulant. It is ultra-nationalist to the point of irrationality. Why antagonize India?
Okay, so Susant Sareen,
with China and have normal relations with India.
Then the question is, like Foreign Secretary Kamal Sibal said, Mr. Moizu is free to play his domestic politics. Maybe this has got to do with the upcoming Majlis elections in April, and he has to cater to that constituency. And that's a vote bank he's fighting with Abdullah Yameen to try and take control of. So one part is domestic, so he's free to play those politics. But the larger worry for India is, Susant Sareen, how does India safeguard and protect its interests? Because if these troops were to leave, then the natural corollary, and this is the fear in strategic circles in India, is that the ground is then fertile for China to establish some kind of a military presence in the Maldives, whether that is through the form of these naval ships, so-called research vessels, or whether they will actually have troops out there in the Maldives, have a base in the Maldives like they do in Djibouti. That is still an open question. but it sort of leaves the field open, and that is India's worry. So how does India safeguard its interest there?
So, Zaka, two clarifications. One, Muizu had fought the election in alliance with Yamin's party.
Yeah.
But I think there's been a falling out between the two, which is why you will see Muizu becoming actually even more stridently anti-India. Earlier, he was of course one of the proponents of the India Out campaign, but over the last couple of months, he's become even more stridently anti-India. I think he's trying to take over the constituency, which was Yamin's constituency.
Yeah.
The second part of it is, Zaka, look, the thing is that we don't have a military base in Maldives. We have a handful of military personnel. Most of them are there for humanitarian assistance and stuff like that, rescue missions and stuff like that. We don't have a military base. The fear, however, is that the Chinese are negotiating to build a port and perhaps a naval base out there, and a naval base in an area which straddles the sea lines which run from the Arabian Sea onto the rest of the Indian Ocean, from the west to the east. So I think that is a matter of serious concern. Now, some of it can be mitigated if we were to invest and develop our own facilities in the Lakshadweep. But I don't think we can let go of the Maldives and allow a hostile power like the Chinese, and not just a hostile power, it's an extra regional power, to come and set up base in Maldives right on virtually on our back door. So clearly, I think India will have to take some steps. But I think even within the Maldives, there is some kind of a pushback now which is starting.
Correct.
We are hearing of, there's an election which these guys have lost. Malé, which is of course the only and most important city in the country, they've lost that election. There is the opposition which is coalescing, and there are, I believe there is now a process in place to have a no confidence motion. So for all you know, that whatever deadline Muizu has given us, he might not even be president by the time that deadline reaches.
Okay.
And 2 months is a very long time. A lot could happen in that time.
Ghanshyam Tiwari, anti-India politics, we have seen this play out in different neighborhood countries at different points of time. There used to be a time when Bangladesh, we used to see very stridently anti-India politics practiced by the Bangladesh National Party. Even in Nepal, when KP Sharma Oli was the Prime Minister, even in his first term when Prachanda was Prime Minister, there was a constituency of anti-India politics that they practiced. Of course, things have changed in the last 15 years in Bangladesh, certainly, and even in Nepal, the anti-India rhetoric coming from mainstream politicians in Nepal has come down quite substantially.